Hello, I'm Hushicho and welcome to We Love Fanfiction. I'm actually doing a solo thing, which is kind of exciting and kind of scary. I actually used to be really active in the fandom of Supernatural, and it's kind of funny because I didn't watch the show that much. In fact, after a point, I didn't really like the show that much, but I really loved the fandom. I really loved all the works that they created, and I loved playing with the characters, and I thought it was a really exciting thing to do. And I get into all the pairings, all the ships, everything. I don't judge, just all the ships all the time. But anyway, I have decided to read a series called the AntiKink series, and it's a Wincest series. So if that squicks you, you can the door's that way. But I'm going to try and do the voices, and it's genuinely a really funny series. I like some of them more than others, but I genuinely do like the series because despite what you may think by the name, the Anti-Kink series is not out to shame any kinks or to disparage any kinks. It's just called the Anti-Kink series because the characters involved basically manage to fuck up the kink in every way that's possible, but they usually get some hot loving anyway. I'm going to try and do the voices. My voices are not very good, so stick with me. I hope you'll enjoy this. I know I have really enjoyed these stories because lately it's been kind of stressful, and sometimes I'll just go through and read one of these anti-kink stories and they just crack me up. So I've decided to start with AntiKink Roleplay by Ash Carpenter. There will be a link in the blurb below in case you'd like to read along with me. And we are reading at archiveofourown.org or livejournal.com AntiKink Roleplay by Ash Carpenter. Dean loved Christmas these days, and Sam loved Dean. He was totally going to selflessly make it the best Christmas ever for his brother because he was awesome and generous. And if it made Dean grateful enough to put out a lot, well, it wasn't like Sam was planning it that way or anything. Much. However, if Sam's incredibly magnanimous Christmassy gestures happened to earn him a bunch of dirty hot sex with the Dean willing to try out any old kink that popped into Sam's head, well, it would be rude to turn him down. It was going to be amazing. There'd be a tree and decorations and presents and cookies and eggnog, lots of eggnog, and a drunk, grateful Dean willing to do whatever his fantastic little brother wanted him to do. Sam totally owned Christmas. Shit, crap, fuck, muttered Sam to himself as he tried to jostle the Christmas tree, which he refused to acknowledge was too big, despite the fact that the top bent awkwardly against the ceiling into the corner of the motel. There was no point in liberating a puny little tree, so it was just going to have to fit, goddammit. Stupid Christmas tree. Just as he was giving the tree a bit of a kick to help it into the corner, the fire alarm began to ring. Sam was startled, although now he thought about it, there was a bit of a burnt smell coming from the direction of the little kitchen. Fuck! Stupid cookies. It was possible that trying to bake cookies on a hot plate wasn't the best idea in the world, but whatever. At least this motel had working fire extinguishers, although Sam had to admit that the cookies were probably beyond saving. Another peril of the oversized tree issue was that Sam hadn't bought enough decorations to cover it. The few strings of tinsel and 12 baubles looked pretty sad spaced sparsely among acres of green, so Sam had to improvise with post-it notes, beer bottle caps, and a pack of novelty glow-in-the-dark condoms. If forced to be honest, Sam would have to admit that it looked a bit like the ornaments had been chosen by an alcoholic sex offender with OCD. Sam tried to improve the situation by writing cute little notes on the post-its and drawing some little hearts, but somehow it all came out a bit psycho-stalkerish. Stupid decorations. Fortifying himself with some potent eggnog, which was most definitely not stupid, Sam turned his attention to packing up Dean's presents. A pair of slightly too tight jeans, a set of sensual massage oils with instruction manual, a bottle of cheap whiskey, and a cock ring. Not that he'd only bought Dean presents that would benefit himself, obviously. That was just a happy coincidence. It rapidly became clear that his Scotch tape dispenser was evil. Evidently its nefarious plan was to nick his fingers so many times that he bled to death without noticing, nasty, jagged little bitch. Now he had blood smeared all over his wrapping paper, which was newspaper he'd stolen from someone's front yard, but that was hardly the point. And no, he didn't think that the eggnog had contributed to his grievous injuries, but since he was on the subject, he'd somehow run out of said eggnog and would need to make some more. Weird. Stupid presents. Dean was going to be home in about 10 minutes, which gave Sam just enough time to get himself nice and festive and ready for his big brother to sexually worship. Once he'd just had another quick glass of 3 eggnog. Soon, Sam was sitting smugly under the Christmas tree, a string of fairy lights wrapped around his naked form. Well, not really under the tree, as that had proved a bit challenging, and he'd ended up with pine needles in some pretty unpleasant places, but certainly tree adjacent and wall socket adjacent, since he was all plugged in and flashing. He'd had the very bright idea of turning the lights on first and then wrapping himself up. Of course, he was very good at hog tying, yet another unusual skill he'd perfected in his line of work, and right now he didn't really have the use of his arms. But that didn't really matter, because Dean would be walking through the door any minute. Oh, wait. Had he said 5 or 6 o'clock? 6. Damn it, he said 6 o'clock. So to recap, Sam was drunk, tied up on the floor of his motel with a very unstable Christmas tree threatening to fall on him, or at least dispense novelty condoms on his head, flashing in every sense of the word, and Dean wouldn't be home for another hour. Son of a bitch. Stupid eggnog. Sam told himself not to panic, and for a few minutes he was just mildly pissed off with his situation and the fact that it was a bit chilly, with the dangly bits catching the draft from under the door, and better believe that he was regretting his insistence on spending Christmas in Michigan, because they'd be guaranteed snow and it would be festive. A little while later, Sam realized that he wasn't shivering anymore. Actually, he was feeling quite warm. That was better. Maybe the alcohol had numbed him. Time marched on, and quite warm turned into very warm, and then hot. Sam blew out a noisy breath and scrunched up his nose as he felt a trickle of sweat sliding down his back. Who'd have thought that fairy lights emitted so much heat? He shifted uncomfortably, hissing as he dislodged the sparkly cover off one of the lights, and the bare bulb burned his skin. As he got hotter, his slick skin turning pink, he began to panic a little. He was feeling a little singed, and what if the stupid lights had a malfunction? He might get electrocuted. As the possibility of serious injury and even death solidified in his eggnog-addled mind, Sam began to thrash against the wire wrapped tightly around him, wriggling around on the floor like a landed fish. Damn it! His knots were too impenetrable. The more he squirmed around, the tighter the bindings became, pulling taut against his skin and bringing the evil, scolding fairy lights into even closer contact. "Help!" he yelled, all thoughts of dignity forgotten, as his thrashing had the unfortunate consequence of bringing his swinging cock into intimate contact with an obnoxious blue light. He flailed wildly, trying to get away from the pain, and accidentally rolled all the way under the tree, knocking its trunk. Despite the fact that he'd wedged it as tight into the corner as humanly possible, it immediately toppled over, trapping him beneath it, smashing all the baubles, and sending garish condoms skittering across the needle-littered floor. "Help! I'm trapped! Someone please!" hollered Sam around a mouthful of tinsel, backing up off the floor and trying to dislodge the tree, which he could now admit was ridiculously huge. A stray branch whacked the controller for the fairy lights, and they suddenly started playing Jingle Bells, their flashes syncing up with the music in a jaunty display. "Oh, fucking fantastic," muttered Sam as he tried to headbutt the tree off him. Raising his voice, he began to holler again, praying that someone would come and rescue him. Speaking of praying, where the hell was Castiel when Sam needed him? Stupid angels. Suddenly the door burst open, and Sam spied through the branches that Dean dashed through it, gun drawn and a panicked expression on his face. "Sammy! Dean, I'm here!" Dean looked dubiously over at the Christmas tree, which was rustling furiously. He hadn't lowered his weapon. "Sammy? What happened? Did you get cursed?" "What? No, you idiot! I'm under the tree!" he snapped. God, his brother was such a moron. Not that he was in a position to be calling anyone names, but still. "You're what?" "Dean, just help me. I'm getting fried and I'm suffocating. There's a condom in my hair." Okay. Shrugging, Dean lifted the tree off Sam with a grunt of effort and shoved it out of the way. His little brother was trussed up like a blinking musical Christmas turkey. Thousands of pine needles had stuck to his sweaty skin, and he had a post-it note that said, "I love you," adhered to his left nut. Plus, he did indeed have a bright orange condom in his hair. Perhaps less surprisingly, he stank of booze. Seeing how distressed his poor little brother was, Dean tried very hard not to laugh as he reached over and yanked the plug for the fairy lights out of the wall, wondering how Sam had managed to get in such a colossal mess. He'd only been gone for a couple of hours. "So, want to tell me what's going on?" asked Dean, looking down at Sam, who had flopped back against the ground with a sigh of relief at the sudden cessation of weight, light, and irritatingly cheerful warbling. Merry Christmas?" Okay, so things hadn't exactly gone according to plan. However, in between bursts of hysterical laughter, Dean did make it apparent that he appreciated the gesture, even if its execution left a lot to be desired. Deciding that he could effectively play the sympathy and the gratitude cards at the same time, Sam managed to quite brilliantly convince Dean to indulge one of his kinks. It had taken a little persuasion, because Dean just couldn't seem to let go of the fact that one or two of their other kinky experiments had ended in trips to the emergency room, attempted arrest, or public humiliation, but Sam had skillfully employed the puppy eyes of doom. Dean hadn't really stood a chance. As it turned out, Dean wasn't exactly averse to the idea of roleplay, and he'd agreed that they could dress up as long as Sam was the one who hauled his ass outside in sub-zero temperatures to scare up some costumes. Cool costumes, like Batman or the Godfather. "Why can't we just dress up in one of the outfits we have?" "Why, because being an FBI agent's so sexy?" "Don't be ridiculous, Sammy. Sometimes you have no sense of adventure." After an appropriate amount of bitching about that comment, Sam had set off on his mission to find a fancy dress store. As it turned out, the problem with deciding to dress up on Christmas Eve was that the only costume store open in town was a seasonal hole in the wall that only stocked Christmas-themed outfits. In addition, so late in the day, there weren't really many options, especially not in their sizes. Dean's eyebrows almost hit his hairline when Sam sheepishly pulled the Santa and elf costumes. "Sam, this isn't really what I had in mind." "I know," replied Sam miserably, sighing and trying to stuff red velvet back into the bag. "It's stupid. I'll take them back." "Now wait, let's not be too hasty," cut in Dean, swallowing and trying to look casual even though his cheeks were a little pink. "I mean, it could work." "It could?" asked Sam doubtfully. "Yeah, it's not my first choice, obviously, but you wanted a role play, and, well, what?" "You're not like sexy dressed like no," mumbled Dean. "Pardon?" Dean sighed. "I think you look good as an elf. Cute." Sam gave Dean an incredulous look. "First off, seriously? Second, you're the elf, short ass." Dean's eyes narrowed into a glare. "Do you want to get laid or not?" Dean admired himself in the dresser mirror. The velvet felt quite nice against his naked skin, and he obviously hadn't padded himself out since Sam wasn't a chubby chaser. Now the only question was whether or not to put on the beard. Yes, definitely the beard. It was really astounding that he was so ridiculously hot that he could pull off a curly white beard. He grinned wolfishly as he admired himself. "Hey, come on out of the bathroom, little boy. It's time to sit on Santa's knee," said Dean in the most perverted voice he could muster, which would have made any 70s porn star blush. "Dude, gross!" shouted Sam through the door. "That's just wrong." "But I need you to get in my lap and show me how naughty or nice you are," leered Dean, not caring that there was 3 inches of wood between them and Sam couldn't see him. Wood. Damn, he was funny, although he unfortunately couldn't share his hilarity with his little brother, as he'd be teased about the 3 inches thing for the rest of his natural life. "Dean," whined Sam, "you sound like a pervert." "Yeah, and?" Dean couldn't really see Sam's point. After all, the little deviant was the one who wanted them to dress up in the first place, so what did he expect? Not the good kind of pervert, like a kiddie fiddler. Dean rolled his eyes. Well, you're not a kid, so I don't see your problem. Now get your ass out here so I can fiddle you. Maybe Sam did have a point about the perverted thing. He looked down his body and realized that his red pants were tinted, and yeah, the idea of Santa with a boner was a little bit wrong. Still, no point in getting prudish now. And he kind of really wanted to see his brother rocking that elf outfit, tight-fitting shorts and cute little vest and all. Dean could swear that he could feel the heat from Sam's bitch face through the door, but there was no reply. Sammy. A muffled few words seeped through the door. What was that? There was a heavy sigh, and then Sam said quietly, I don't want to come out. Why not? Because. What? For Christ's sake, Sam, just spit it out. I look silly, mumbled Sam miserably, and Dean realized that the heat he'd felt through the door was probably from his brother's embarrassment rather than a bitch face. Oh, bless. He tried to stifle a snicker. I'm sure you look hot. I don't. Sure you do. Come on out. I've got a special package for you. Oh, well, he might as well be as perverted as he wanted, since it was pretty hard to trump gay incest and the reasons you're going to special hell stakes anyway. Ooh. Dean, stop saying stuff like that. But I'm Santa. Santa doesn't say things like that. Well, you've clearly never seen Santa Claus is Coming Downtown. There was a brief pause as Sam absorbed that little gem. Thankfully, I haven't. Dean huffed out a sigh. Look, you wanted to play dress-up, and I went along with it because I'm awesome like that. So now you have to get your sexy ass out here and plant it on my lap, okay? Okay, but you have to promise not to laugh. Remember that you're supposed to be Santa, and I'm your helper, so those are the characters we have to play. Are you suggesting that Santa molests his elves? Dean! Okay, fine. But if I'm your boss, then you have to do what you're told. Deal? I guess, but it can only be sex stuff. What did you think I was going to tell you to do? Take out the trash? Dean shook his head, although he had to admit it would be funny if Sam had to go outside in his outfit. He snickered. Dean! All right, fine, geez. Promise that I'll only make you do filthy, perverted stuff involving my cock and my ass. Okay? Does that make you feel better? Sam chuckled. You're the worst Santa ever. Shut up, bitch, smiled Dean. You coming out here or what? Slowly the door opened and Sam emerged, head down and cheeks burning. The pointy green hat with its little bell was slightly too small for Sam's big skull and was hanging on precariously, seeming through sheer force of will. Underneath Sam's cherry-red face, the tight little green top barely fastened around his massive torso, buttons straining, and the matching shorts really left nothing at all to the imagination. Nothing. In fact, Dean was fairly sure that he could see the head of Sam's cock was poking out of the bottom, trapped by his jaunty red and white striped tights. Said tights couldn't really compete with the length of Sam's legs, and were straining to cover him, pulled almost see-through at several points. The stellar ensemble was capped off by a ridiculously pointy felt boot. Just the one boot. Sam sighed deeply, lower lip sneaking out in a pout. I lost my shoe. He must have dropped the damn thing on the way from the store to the car. Dean nodded for a moment, face initially expressionless. As Sam peeked at him through his bangs, waiting for a reaction, Dean chewed desperately on his lips in an attempt to keep his expression neutral. His eyes lighted on the bare-stockinged foot again, one toe poking out of a hole, and that was it. He lost it. Sam looked mortified as Dean howled with laughter, slapping his knee and swiping at the tears leaking from his eyes. "You dick!" he cried, awkwardly trying to pull his shorts lower. "I'm sorry," replied Dean in between guffaws, breath hitching. "I'm sorry, really. It's just—" "What?" demanded Sam pissily as Dean's chuckles increased in volume again. "You were right." "About?" Dean tried to sober, looking Sam in the eyes and coughing in an attempt to cover up a snort. "You don't look hot at all." Sam gaped in outrage, and then his face collapsed into his very sulkiest expression. "I told you that, and you don't look so hot yourself, you know, McBeardy." Dean felt affronted for all of a second before he remembered how much of an idiot Sam looked, which cheered him up to no end. At least he didn't have a boner anymore. "I look awesome and you know it. And McBeardy, really? That's the best you've got?" It's hard to make witty comebacks when your nuts feel like they're in a vice. "Oh, poor little elf. Want Santa to rub him better?" Shut up. And, yeah. Dean grinned and walked over to his brother, noting that he did look sort of adorable, even if he was dressed like a total tool. He leaned up and kissed Sam's pout right back into his face, nipping at his lips and licking his mouth open. Sam sputtered and coughed, spitting out his mouthful of nylon beard. Gross! Yanking the offending item out of the way, Sam pressed his lips back to his brother's and thoroughly mapped out the inside of his mouth with a hot, eager tongue, both of them getting so carried away that Sam's hat got knocked off with a cheerful jingle. "Dean," whined Sam. "What?" "I can't get a hard-on in this outfit. It's too tight." Dean pulled back, shaking his head. "You're the idiot who chose it." "It was this or a Mrs. Claus costume." Seeing the way Dean's eyes lit up at the prospect, he shook his head quickly, expression mildly disgusted. "No freaking way, dude. This is disturbing enough without me putting on a skirt." Sighing at the lost opportunity, because the thing about skirts here was that you could just yank them up and start pawing at the goods, and anyway, that wasn't the point, because no one here got off on women's clothing or anything. Dean wrapped his arms around Sam and nuzzled against his neck. "Why does our sex keep ending up disturbing?" "I know, right? Who'd have thought the two brothers fucking could end up weird?" replied Sam teasingly, the corners of his mouth lifting. "If you just got Batman and Robin costumes, it would have been fine. Yeah, that would have been completely normal. You're so my Robin." "Holy delusional narcissist, Batman!" exclaimed Sam, pitching his voice an octave higher. Dean slapped Sam's ass, giving it a firm grope while he was there, and finding that his cock began to take an interest in the proceedings again, although its resurrection faltered a little as his eyes travelled over the stripy tights. "Dude, you need to take that off. My dick just can't take you seriously." "Yeah, well, you're not exactly setting me on fire either," muttered Sam, trying to fight his way out of his garments. In the end, Dean had to help him to fumble his buttons open and then wriggle out of the clinging cloth without splitting it. Once Sam was naked and Dean had been informed in no uncertain terms that having a pervy Santa rubbing off against him while making bad puns was not sexy, the elder Winchester relented and stripped as well. Dean grabbed the duvet off one of the beds and then shuffled naked over to the sofa, setting themselves on it and wrapping up. The room had a real working fireplace, which Sam had quite miraculously managed to light earlier without setting the place on fire, and they snuggled down together, warm and comfortable. Sam had rolled his eyes as he was jostled into the girl position, but actually it was pretty nice lying back against Dean's chest, bracketed by his thighs and cuddled tight to him. Not that anyone was going to mention it, obviously. He smiled as Dean's lips pressed softly to his temple, then cheek, and finally the corner of his mouth. "You know what, Sammy?" "What?" "Sofa sex is so safe and vanilla that it isn't even a kink at all." "Sounds right up our street." Dean evidently agreed, hands roaming over Sam's flushed skin, greedy and possessive, and his mouth seeking out contact. Sam just lay back and allowed Dean to touch him for a few luxurious minutes, stretching out like a cat, thrusting his hips up to press his cock into his brother's fist. When he became too turned on for that to suffice, he turned over, pressing his chest to Dean and grinding against him. "You know what, Santa?" he purred, licking at Dean's lush lips with heavy lids and lust-blown eyes, making him look thoroughly debauched. "I've been a very good boy this year. I think I deserve a reward." "Sicko," reprimanded Dean with a filthy grin, grabbing Sam's ass and pulling him down, snugging him against his body. Soon, and with a complete and utter lack of drama, Sam was inside Dean, both of them panting and pulling one another closer. The couch was an admittedly tight fit, but no one fell off or suffered an injury. They made sweet, leisurely, and entirely uneventful love for 20 minutes before Sam fucked Dean into orgasm and followed him over the edge. Wet, sticky, and sated, they dozed in the afterglow and cuddled in an unmentionably girly way, blinking themselves to lucidity as an old mantel-shelf clock chimed in the new day at midnight. Guess it's Christmas. Guess so. So where's the eggnog, bitch? Oh, someone drank it. Oh, really? And who might that have been? Santa? Possibly an elf? Seriously, dude, they're sneaky. Dean nodded, mouth set in a grim line. Well, that settles it. Now I have to hunt Santa. Teach that chubby bitch to steal my eggnog. Sam grinned, bumping his nose against Dean's. Why don't you open your presents first? You might just forgive him. My presents? As in the presents that were under that horizontal condom tree? Sam glanced towards the corner of the room, taking in the devastation. Crushed branches, broken baubles, fire-extinguished cookies, burnt-out fairy lights, and an array of post-it notes and novelty johnnies, underneath all of which lurked his oh-so-skillfully wrapped presents. At this rate, he was never going to get Dean into a cock ring. Fuck! Stupid Christmas. The end. Well, I really enjoyed this story. I thought it was a lot of fun. There were times when I had to stop myself from actually just bursting out laughing, and times when I almost did anyway. But I felt this was very well written, had the characters in character for the most part, very, very appropriate to the characters, and there's a huge sense of humour and not taking itself too seriously, which I always love. But I absolutely love the fact that several of the stories in this series are just them trying as best they can, but due to their circumstances, it doesn't really work out the way they would like to. So I think that's especially fun. And I hope you enjoyed the attempt at the voices. I hope you enjoyed the story. And I'll try to do these again sometime if you respond well to them and seem to enjoy them. Thanks very much for tuning in, and please follow the channel, subscribe to the channel, and follow us on social media. Thanks again. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.